Okay, so we're gonna start talking about the lower level brain structures. First is the brainstem. The brainstem is the oldest part of and central core of the brain. It begins where the spinal cord swells as it enters the skull, and is responsible for automatic survival functions. Next, we have the medulla. The medulla is located at the base of the brainstem. This controls basic life supporting functions like heartbeat and breathing. Damage to this area can lead to death. The reticular formation is a nerve network in the brainstem that plays an important role in controlling wakefulness and arousal. Extending up and down the spinal cord into the brain, this controls organism to level of alertness. Damage to this area can cause coma. The thalamus. Thalamus is the brain's sensory switchboard located on the top of the brainstem. It directs messages to the sensory receiving areas in the cortex. Next, we have the cerebellum. The cerebellum, also known as little brain, attached to the rear end of the brainstem. It helps coordinate voluntary movement and balance. If damaged, the person could perform basic movements, but will lose fine coordination skills. Next, we have the limbic system, which is not on my brain because I forgot to add that. But the limbic system is a ring of structures at the border of the brainstem and cerebral cortex. It helps regulate functions such as memory, fear, aggression, hunger, and thirst. And it includes the hypothalamus, hippocampus, and the amygdala. The hypothalamus is a neural structure lying below the thalamus. That would be over here because I misplaced it somewhere else. It helps regulate the body's maintenance activities such as eating, drinking, body temperature, and it linked to emotions. It plays a role in emotions, pleasures, and sexual functions. The hippocampus is a neural central located in the limbic system that wraps around the back of the thalamus. I think that is also placed in the wrong place. It helps processing new memories for permanent storage. Next, we have the amygdala, an almond-shaped neural cluster in the limbic system that controls emotional responses such as fear and anger. That would be right here. Next up, we have the cerebral cortex, the intricate fabric of interconnected neurons that form the body's ultimate control and information processing center. Covers the brain's lower level structures. Contains an estimated 30 billion nerve cells divided into 4 lobes. The corpus callosum is the large band of neural fibers that connects the 2 brain hemispheres and allows them to communicate with each other. It is sometimes cut to prevent seizures. Longitudinal fissure, the long curvature that divides the cerebral cortex into left and right hemispheres. This and other fissures in the brain create major division in the brain called lobes. The frontal lobes is a portion of the cerebral cortex lying just behind the forehead that is involved in planning and judgment. It includes the motor cortex. Now, the parietal lobes are the portions of the cerebral cortex lying on the top of the hand and towards the rear. It includes the somatosensory cortex and general association areas used in processing information. Regions available for general processing include mathematical reasoning, designated as the association lobe behind the frontal lobe. The occupational lobe, the portion of the cerebral cortex lying at the back of the head, it includes the primary visual processing areas of the brain. For the temporal lobes are the portions of the cerebral cortex lying roughly above the ears. It includes the hearing area of the brain. The motor cortex, a strip of brain tissue at the rear of the frontal lobes that controls voluntary movement. Different parts of the cortex control different parts of the body. The motor cortex in the left hemisphere controls the right side of the body and vice versa. The somatosensory cortex, the strip of brain tissue at the front of the parietal lobe that registers and processes body's sensations. Okay, for the Broca's area, the brain area of the left frontal lobe that directs the muscle movement involved in speech. If damaged, the person can form ideas but cannot express them as a speech. After that is the Wernicke's area, a brain area of the left temporal lobe involved in language, comparison, and expression. Our ability to understand what is said to us, usually in the left temporal lobe. And last but not least, the pituitary gland. The endocrine system, known as the master gland, that in conjunction with adjacent the brain area controls other endocrine glands. It's located at the base of the brain and connects to